WDDO, W300EB, Macon, Perry, 107.9 FM and 980 AM. The Glory.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwenette, Westbrooks, and Mr. Dumas.
And good evening, and welcome to another segment of the NAACP Truth Show. I'm Willie Dumas, your host. We'll be joined later by President Gwendolyn Westbrooks. Hope you're having a great day today. Another hot day today, and I believe that's going to be the subject of the entire week. And so you better stay hydrated. Make sure you get those drinks in you to make sure you stay in a cool place. It's going to be really, really hot. Speaking of hot, we know that we've had some situations happening here in the Middle East and over the weekend. So a lot of concern across America as far as retaliation goes, and we see some of that has played out already there in Qatar. And so we're keeping our service people in our prayers to make sure that they're safe wherever they're dwelling. Juneteenth, we just finished up and celebrating Juneteenth this past weekend. Started out with a lot of different activities throughout the city. I had an opportunity on, I believe it was Friday night, to go downtown and to watch a movie, a Spike Lee movie, and hear some great music and kind of enjoy some food and beverages. And so it was a good time. Well attended, lots of people out. And one of the things I have noticed about Juneteenth events is that the young people are showing up. Our young folks are showing up, and we're very happy about that because they're going to be our future. And of course, making sure they kind of pay tribute to those who made the pathway straight for them. It was good to see a lot of those events take place. Got a chance to see a lot of people I hadn't seen in quite some time, and to just have a good time getting together without any type of violence or anything of that nature. And so that particular event was great to attend. Had a good time, my wife and I, on that event. But then there were several other events, of course, at the Tubman and all across the city. Different things that you could attend, as well as even outside of Macon. Some of the other cities were celebrating Juneteenth as well. And so you had a variety of places you could have checked out, and, family oriented, history oriented as well. A lot of history out there that people could learn about, some things they probably didn't know about Juneteenth. And so it was well thought out, well planned, and of course, it's always good for us to come together and not have any violence take place. I did see today that at the, I think it's Georgia State Prison, there was a death of an inmate there, which I believe that was caused by some rival gangs within the prison. And so I'm sure they are investigating that and trying to see what actually took place. But that was very tragic. Of course, we have constantly talked about safety concerns in our jails here in Bibb County. And of course, we're going to talk more about that later when President Westbrook gets here. Going to talk more about the jail situation here in Macon, for we do know that there were several suggestions that were made from the commissioners in the mayor's office. We'll talk about some of those suggestions that were made and just how effective those would possibly be. We do know that a new jail is definitely needed. The sheriff has iterated that, as well as the NAACP. Our state president had a chance to come down and actually tour the jail. And from his assessment of the jail, he said that, it was very deplorable. The conditions was very deplorable. And having seen jails, all over the state of Georgia, this seemed to be one of the worst ones. And so there definitely is a need for a new jail here in Macon. And we do hope that will soon take place, even though we know that it's been said that it would take at least 10 years for a jail to be built here in Middle Georgia. But that concern has been here for a number of years, and of course, we wonder why, it hasn't been addressed even up until this point. Knowing over the years that was necessary. There was an article in the news about our DA. It says the defense lawyer disputes the Macon district attorney on murder acquittals, and they gave a reason why here. It says a jury acquitted Jeffrey Hunter Jr. of murder charges after 6.5 years in jail, citing lack of evidence and supporting alibi. So, this has kind of put a spotlight on some of the criminal activities and some of the things that happens when you don't have enough evidence, or the investigation doesn't go a certain way, and these are the kinds of things that can happen, ending up with an acquittal. It says a Macon defense lawyer is challenging prosecutors' statements on why a jury acquittal murder suspect early this week, calling the prosecution's claims absurd. Okay, and it goes on to say that some other things that they felt were not, shown or done a certain way in this particular case. But we'll be watching that very closely. Of course, we'll be following that, very closely as well. And so, how safe do you feel in Macon, Georgia? Our residents here. Do you feel safe or safer in Macon with a lot of the activities that have taken place? I know there have been several large gatherings that we've had, and of course, a major one coming up in just a few weeks, 4th of July celebration. Because sometimes when things that happen nationally with the bombings and everything, there's some alertness within the community. People have some apprehensions about crowds and gatherings, and so I'm sure that will be a concern for many of us, just not knowing where these so-called terrorists may be, because all of us remember what happened in 9/11 and how tragic that event was, and how surprising that was, that no one had a clue that these types of activities would actually take place. And I was having a conversation with someone coming here, and just the fact that when it's hard to actually defend yourself against people who don't have a fear of losing their life, and we know that in that region, religiously, they believe that Allah will actually reward them, in these cases. And so we got to stay vigilant and kind of keep our eyes open with various things that are happening right now, because of the fact we could possibly, I guess, end up in a war type situation, even though that hasn't been declared. But the possibilities and all the climate is there to potentially have that kind of thing to happen. And so we are keeping our eyes open, keeping our finger on the pulse of things, to make sure nothing like that happens. You can give us a call here at the radio station. We'd love to hear from our viewing audience. If you have a concern for the NAACP, as well as any subject matter that we may speak about, you can always reach us here at the station at 478-250-1444. Once again, that's 478-250-1444. And of course, we love hearing from you, and just give us a call here, and any particular subject matter you may want to talk about. I also want to mention the Forsyth Police Department is investigating a shooting involving 2 minors. We know that kids are out of school now, and sometimes the crime seems to tick up when kids are out of school, because they a lot of times don't have a whole lot to do, and so they end up getting into trouble or turning to violence. And in this particular case, it says that the Forsyth Police Department is investigating a shooting that injured 2 people at a Forsyth apartment complex, according to a news release. And it says that around 11:30 p.m. on Friday, police officers report that people were shot on the 500 Cabinets Road at Forsyth Gardens Apartments. It says, according to the release, a minor was found with a gunshot wound and was brought to a medical facility for further care. The release added that officers learned a second minor was involved in the shooting and arrived at the hospital as well. The police department said that the 2 minors actually knew each other and that an investigation showed that an argument between the 2 caused the shootout. The police department identified a 3rd suspect that was involved in the shooting but was not injured. We've got to talk to our children about violence, particularly gun violence. At a very young age, when people get involved with gun violence, it's just a pathway to the prison system. And we can avoid that certainly by our parents doing their job, by supervising their children and making sure that they're not involved in illicit type activities. Because, of course, it's very easy to get into things when you don't have a lot of activities that they can participate in. And so we do reiterate, of course, here in Macon that there are many recreation facilities around, and with it being as hot as it is, many of them have pools. And so you could, if they don't have the pools, they do have those cooling pads where the water kind of, sprays around and everything. So keep our kids' temperatures down so they don't, get into things. We did have a drowning at Lake Tobosaki some weeks ago. And so you got to, even though, people are swimming and everything, you got to use precaution and safety. We do, urge our people to read signs, if it's a place that's dangerous to swim or you're not supposed to swim, we don't want to take those kind of risks because it ends up putting people at risk as well. So we want our people to be safe. We're just starting in the summer. The summer has just started. And so in order to stay safe, we've got to be safe. And so make sure that we're keeping our children safe and we're watching them, in particularly when they're having certain activities. The 4th of July is coming up. It's one of those times, just like Juneteenth, that we celebrate freedom and in this country called the United States of America. And we do know that our freedom is being challenged for many of us, not only African Americans, but we see our Latino brothers and sisters who are now having to really defend themselves with the ICE raids. We do know that ICE has been very vigilant in having these ICE raids in various places of employment. We've seen people being arrested at Walmart, being arrested at Home Depot, and other facilities. And so it puts a sense of fear in people who may or may not have the proper documentation to say that they are, actually citizens of the United States. And we do know some of the cases where American citizens have been arrested as well, even though they have proper visas and paperwork. And so just a couple of weeks ago, they had a big march all across the country. I believe it was last week when President Trump was celebrating his birthday there in Washington, D.C. And of course, had this big parade with all the military tanks and troops and everything else we could probably think of there in D.C. It just happened to be his birthday at the same time they were celebrating the Army. And so in that particular effort, of course, there was a lot of scrutiny and a lot of protests. that were happening all across the nation, because those types of parades are usually held by dictators and kings and people like that. And of course, the people were not in agreement with that, and so they had what they call a No Kings March. A matter of fact, we had a No Kings March here locally in Macon. Even though we had a march up in Atlanta, there was also a march here in Macon, and so people are voicing their concerns as it relates to immigration and fairness. It's Latinos now, but who's later? And so this is a concern that people's rights, are being violated. They not sometimes having the opportunity to go before a judge and to, actually defend themselves. And so, of course, equal rights and protection under the law is for all of us and not just for some of us. And so that should be a concern for all of us. And so I'm sure we'll continue to see these types of raids, all across the country, but people will continue to use their First Amendment of rights by protesting and by voicing their opinion about those concerns. I see President Westbrooks has joined us. Good evening, President Westbrooks.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
We've been
I
just
hear you.
talking about some of the events that's been happening all across the country as well as here locally.
Right.
Just a lot going on these days.
Yeah, and just celebrated Juneteenth, and for all those that are not familiar with the purpose of Juneteenth and the holiday, it stems from slavery.
Right.
And so every slave was not freed at the same time, and so this is kind of leaning toward the Texas, the area of the state of Texas, where they still was enslaving people, even after I think it was maybe a couple of years. Good evening, Commissioner Denise Bryan. I'm seeing Miss Kimberly
Houston as well.
And so and I think it was maybe a couple of years later that they were freed after the slaves were freed. So it's something that people need to know the history behind that, and not just celebrate Juneteenth and don't know what it's all about. So it was something to celebrate.
Right. And then also I was talking earlier where there were a couple events where they were actually showing different movies and giving information about it. So
there was a lot of activity this last week. See Commissioner Elaine Lucas, the Water Board Member, District 1, has joined us.
Good evening.
Thank you all for tuning in.
Absolutely.
We were, talking about earlier, before the show was talking about with the different benefits. And I'm just saying, people, we have to, we got a governor's race coming up, and you all need to be preparing to vote. If you've never voted, you need to be preparing to register to vote. You need to vote. I'm saying we can't sit on the sidelines and say that your vote don't count. We can no longer do that, because we see what the consequences are when we don't vote.
Absolutely.
We're talking about people's not being able to get medical benefits that they're trying to cut out. They're talking about housing for people. They're talking about limiting, subsidized housing. How, if you are able and body to work, and I think people misinterpret that a lot. But if you're able-bodied person to work, then they're talking about limiting the number of years that you can be to receive subsidized housing. Because now you can receive it till you die, really.
Right.
I'm saying if you don't have any income or anything like that. But I think people get the wrong information. They just have selective learning or selective hearing or whatever. But a lot of people that receive, and some people, because someone told me that they thought subsidized housing mean that you don't pay any rent at all, and that's not true.
Right.
Subsidized housing is subsidized housing is based on whether or not you have income. So if you have income, you are going to pay rent. It's just that you don't pay the full amount. You're going to get the amount that they that you make, they substitute the difference in what it would have cost. So you still have to pay something if you have income. And I want people to understand that they're misinterpreting what subsidized housing means. But for the simple fact that you're talking about cutting that, putting a limit on that and cutting that off, like people don't work and don't contribute. But you do have some people that don't have income that
Right.
that do not have to pay any type of rent, and they've been doing it for years. So, but at the same time, um, people are misinterpreting what subsidized housing is. We're talking about, facilities that are talking about closing because, some of their businesses, a lot of business is based on, uh, fundings from um, the state. And so that's what people got to understand here in Macon, in Georgia.
Right. The governors.
Medicaid is not federal funding.
Right.
It's state funded. And so we need to get on board and start voting because the governor's race is coming up next year. And just like when during COVID, when we had the this crisis, um, the Biden administration was trying to get Georgia to participate in the Medicaid expansion, and they were willing to fund it, and they would not. Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. She said we salute the NAACP for your advocacy on issues like the jail, water board, open meetings, and Macon Transit Authority. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
But these are when they tried to get them to get Medicaid expansion for Georgia, they opt out of it, and they actually filed a lawsuit to keep from having to. They filed a lawsuit and to keep from having to participate in the Medicaid expansion program, and they won. And so now we have something else that they've put in place, pathway, and that's not working because people are not signing up for it. And I can, it's different levels, different programs when it comes to Medicaid.
Right.
So the pathway, is something where they're requiring people to actually have to work so many hours. So why would somebody work? Why would somebody apply for pathway when there's a program that you don't have to do anything?
Right.
You just got to have children. Right. And you got to have children under a certain age. So why would you apply for that if that is in place? And even, and people have misinterpreted that also. People think that people don't work, and that's not the case. I've worked in it, I've done it, and I know that's not the situation all the time. You got some people that do not work, do not plan on, but not trying it, but it's not the majority.
Exactly.
And so, even if you find a job, even if you were not working and you found a job, there is a program, another Medicaid program that gives that parent 12 months of Medicaid coverage because she's coming out of having Medicaid,
right,
and then finding a job, and then they just don't want to leave you out there without any medical. So they give you 12 months coverage after that 12 months. If you're not financially, if your income is over that amount, then what they do is that you come off of Medicaid, but they give you 12 months of coverage even when you begin employment. So that's this pathway thing to me is just really
just something. They're just putting something out there, it seems.
Yeah. So it's crazy the way, and I don't know. I guess people sitting and making these decisions and making plans who really haven't spoken to the community, to the people that are receiving these type of benefits. But again, we just want to put out there also. We talked about it on the show a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, about the SNAP benefits are being stolen. Actually, a lady was on the news probably this weekend talking about her mother benefits were stolen, and the information out there how to protect your benefits is not really out there. It's not being publicized. So again, we're putting information out there. You need to go to www.EBT Connect, and you can create an account. And while you're creating that account, there's information on there where you can actually freeze your account. I actually block your account. So when you're not using your card, lock your account. When you're not using your card, you can lock your card so your benefits won't be
taken.
And then you can lock it back. You can unlock it and lock it back. So, I've offered that service to some of my church members on, for our elderly people that are not familiar, but this is not really out there publicly like it should be to help people protect. But we're going to talk about the jail just because we only got a few more minutes, but talk about the jail.
Right.
And so, I know that, things that are going on. I agree with some of the things that, the NAACP agree with some of the things that are happening. And the state president has already spoke on those things that he think that should be done. And again, we have to move. We got to move these cases, move them forward. So these people they can either be sentenced or either be released. And I know that the mayor is talking about, looking at releasing 150 people. But in looking at this report that I'm getting on a daily basis from June the 13th up until today, well, maybe yesterday, we've had 121 people arrested that are in Bibb County Jail that was arrested in 10 days. In a 10-day time period, we've had 121 people that has been incarcerated.
Wow.
So I'm just saying, somebody's not getting a message. we in 10 days. So in 30 days, I'm just trying to figure out how many. Are we gonna get another 120 something people in 30? I'm talking about this is in a 10-day time period that 121 people has been arrested.
And chances are it will probably.
And I'm looking at the charges because I'm getting a report of how many people on a daily basis incarcerated in their charges. So, we still have to deal with the jail. We still have to deal with the, I'm still getting the same complaints about the conditions of the jail. I've been sending texts, messages the weekend, this morning, about the conditions of the jail. So I know that there's supposed to be some maintenance things that are done, but I just don't think that we really still focusing on the renovation of the jail. We need an overhaul. It doesn't need to be maybe some toilets fixed or
Right.
some maintenance like that. The grand jury has said that the old part needs to be torn down. They've said the same thing that we've said, and we're talking about maintenance. And everything that's being done is talking about is long term. We got to deal with the short term issues that we have. Bed bugs.
Wow.
That's a big thing.
Lice.
That's a big thing. I just sent the text, just sent the message. I think maybe Thursday, Friday. Still getting those same phone calls. We're still getting the water. Not having water. They're talking about 65 people on a block that only got one shower. There, it's just
too much.
And like I say, I agree with some of the things that the mayor is doing as far as the housing, education wise, and different things like that. But we still kind of not focusing on the immediate attention that we need to get on the jail. Releasing people that may be, we're talking about an ankle monitor, and the county is paying for it. And but at the same time, we still need to move these cases. I still say, we still need to, if they're going to be out, if they're going to be working or whatever, taking mental health, we don't need to look at the fact that they're out. We still need to move these cases, because we just saw what happened with the man that been in jail 6.5 years and went to court, and the jury found him not guilty. Actually, it was 2 people last week that were exonerated. So, this has been a law passed that people are wrongly convicted or been in jail like this. They can be compensated now, right. And that law goes into effect next month. $75,000 per year, each year that they were wrongfully convicted or sat in jail and And if
Wow.
you're on death row, it's an extra $25,000. So you're talking about $100,000 per year year that somebody's been sitting in jail and been wrongfully convicted or sitting in. I'm saying, I think that we got to start investigating up front more, because like the DA said, that they're just basically looking at it at probable cause, but she have to look at it at a different level, different set of evidence. And so you get more people in jail because they just going by probable cause. And so I think we need to start doing the investigation more up front. We 121 people in jail in 10 days.
Wow.
So thank you for tuning in, everybody. We will see you on next week.
And until then,
have a good
evening. Stay safe, stay cool.
You have been listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwenette, Westbrooks, and Mr. Dumas. Come join us next Monday at 4 o'clock p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions